Thank you all for being here. It's me, Ari Dotsich, or you just call me Rashid, that's fine. As you can see, I'm outside, and let me show you where I am. It's a, it's not a park, but it's a little road near some trees, and it's between two football fields. So I'm here at this space. There's nobody around. Once in a while, a bicycle passes by or a pedestrian walks by also, and I'm over here because there are no disruptions. You may hear the tram over there. Maybe you can see the lights of the tram already right now. Those are lights of the tram. You may hear that from time to time, but apart from that, I'm totally undisrupted over here, so that's why this location. But let me see who's in the live chat. Let me see. Maria is here. Hi, Maria. Diane is here. Chess is here. I'm glad you're here, Chess. I see the more people here. When you're here, please let me know. Let you be known in the live chat, please. Thank you very much. But before I continue, can you all hear me clearly? Let me know. Can you hear me clearly? Let me know in the live chat. All right? Let me know. Okay. Can you hear me? Well, let me know. Okay, sound is good. Chat said, what's the rest say? Is it sound good to all the rest? You want two more answers. Is it sound good? Okay. I got two answers. Okay, now look. In this live stream, I'm addressing this Greek caste system that the world is holding on to. Yes, the world is holding fast onto this ancient Greek caste system. It's a sodomite caste system aimed at draining the men of the population. All right? This caste system is also known as patriarchy in the West. And people confuse patriarchy with male leadership. Okay, let me put on my hoodie so you don't hear no wind will disrupt me. Listen, take notes if necessary, or replay the live stream and take notes if you missed it. Listen, the patriarchy is not male leadership. The patriarchy is an ancient Greek caste system based on older men molesting younger men. And the men that were strong and smart and financially well off were considered the alpha males, and they had the entitlement to sexually violate younger men and little boys. Okay? And the submissive men who got along with this and got benefits in return were called the beta males. Alpha, beta, based on it's a Greek alphabet. You had the sigma males. Those are the men who are a bit, well, they just don't care. They're a bit cynical about things, especially when it comes to women. And you have other versions of men also, but just understand. Alpha male, beta male, that thinking is deeply grained worldwide. We get it in schools, we get it in the workplace, in church even. You get it in, let me say, in entertainment. This ancient Greek caste system based on sexual fright, because remember, the ancient Egyptians had the loose booty ritual, which it got from their ancestor Ham, which is also my ancestor. Yeah, he is. The loose booty ritual in which you as a man were gang raped and your anus became loose because of all the dicks that were running through your anus very hardly. The loose booty ritual was a humiliation ritual in ancient Egypt to force and motivate the other men to comply with Egyptian society. All right? And if you walked around with a pretty woman, if they think, oh, that's your wife, that's the woman you're sleeping with, and they don't consider you manly enough, loose booty ritual, and they kill you. They do a loose booty on you in front of the woman, sexually humiliate you, kill you, take your wife away. That was to steal your girl, steal your woman culture of ancient Egypt. And there are places like amongst African Americans today where they still have this culture. Yes, African Americans still have the loose booty ritual. They kind of went back to the ancient Egyptian culture and reintroduced it. It happened somewhere, I don't know, somewhere amongst the I don't know if it's 1960s or whatever, but Liberal blacks in the United States, they then do the loose booty, and they have this through the girl culture too, from ancient Egypt. And a lot of liberal blacks tend to associate with Pharaoh and Egyptian gods also. But anyway, so you had the loose booty on men. You also had the Lolita spell. I made a lesson about that, also for ancient Egypt. The ancient Greeks, the Greeks were Japhanites. Japhanites are the sons of Japhan, one of the sons of Japhet. So the ancient Greeks had a similar thing to loose booty, but with them it was different. If you, as a young man, if you were too good and too much and too influential, the older men would feel jealous and anxious because of your sexual success. They would gang rape you, hang you on a tree, as a turn for all the others. So the young men grew up with sexual fear that older men may molest them and hang them on trees, or molest them in public, or sexually mutilate them even. So that also happens. This whole thing called respect, it also comes from ancient Greece. Sexual fright, this was based upon. So respect and the patriarchy are part of this ancient Greek caste system centering around sexual fright. Before I continue, is this clear unto you that respect and patriarchy are not biblical? They're not even natural to us human beings, but they are an ancient Greek caste system based on sexual fright amongst men. Is this clear unto you? Let me know in the live chat. All right. So that's why indeed Abraham told Sarah, tell them you're my sister. If I tell you you're my wife, they may kill me. Abraham knew that's what they do in Egypt. Gang rape you in front of your wife, kill you, and they give your wife to a man they consider worthy. Yes, Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed because they were obsessed with the loose booty. They tried to do the loose booty on two whole angelic beings. And when Lot tried to stop them, told Lot, because you stop us from doing this, we're going to do worse to you and your family. So just you know that. So understand, the ancient Greeks, they learned much of the devil worship from the ancient Egyptians. Yet the ancient Egyptians were black, they were African, but that doesn't mean I have loyalty towards them, because a lot of them were evil. A lot of them were wrong. I don't think all ancient Egyptians were bad people. There were good quality people amongst them. Ancient Egypt performed a lot of good things also. Let's be real about that. We still have the pyramid standing on the other stuff from ancient Egypt that we still have in use today. But let's be real. It was satanic. Come on. You think the ancient Greeks were bad? Oh, Lord. They got it from the ancient Egyptians, the Kemet people. But the ancient Greeks went further than the ancient Egyptians, and they actually embraced Satan, who looks white, as a father figure. They called him Zeus. I mean, what the? And in Italy, the Greeks called him Jupiter or Jupiter. My goodness, what were they thinking? But anyway, this caste system of sexual fright, it was so effective on the males that worldwide it was enforced. It was introduced and enforced worldwide under the Greek Empire, established by Alexander of Macedonia. I don't call him Alexander the Great, because he's not great at all. He is a Nephilim, not even part of our species. So why should we even call him great? Get the heck out of here. So Alexander of Macedonia established the Greek Empire, making Greek the spoken language worldwide, enforcing Greek currency and Greek styles. Also, this caste system he enforced worldwide. Alexander of Macedonia, his body passed away quickly, and his generals who maintained the Greek Empire after he died, they made sure it continued. And later in China, around 100 years later in China, it's around 100 years, I believe, like 100 years later in China, the Chinese pagans who collaborate with Greek rule, they established the Han Dynasty, which meant to enforce the Greek ideals in Asia, but in an Asian way. So the Han Dynasty, which was the foundation of what they call China, and most of the culture in Asia, it has a Greek origin. Okay? Just so you know. So the world is more Greek than you realize. Just understand that. Yes, in Asia, don't use the Greek language anymore, like in ancient times. But the styles and philosophies of the ancient Greeks are well there in Asia. The yin yang Greek. The Greeks a lot of circle say shape, a lot of circle shaped symbols referring to duality and sun worship. So now you understand. So this caste system is what we're all taught. Anywhere you're going to, where you were raised in Sweden, or you were raised in Brazil, or you're raised in North Korea. By the way, doesn't exist. It's just Korea. But anyway, or you were raised in Mexico, or raised somewhere in Zimbabwe or Nigeria or New Zealand, wherever you're raised. This Apollonian caste system is taught to you. They don't tell you, guys, this Apollo, he is a son of Satan himself. Satan, his real name is Hellel. That's why Greece called Hellas, named after Satan. And this is a Nephilim, and he is the model of mankind. He's the one we follow. They don't tell you that. Because if they would tell you, they would think, sir, I'm from this Saudi Arabia. Why are we learning about this Greek god and you say this is the model that for all mankind? What the heck? Why are all the statues of this creature so naked and so violent? So they don't do it into your face, because if you do it into your face, you realize, hold on a minute, I don't want to be part of this. So they mask it with values. In the world, you're taught values when you grow up. But let me tell you, most of the values you were taught in this world, not all, some of the values can be useful and good, but most of these values are all centered around Apollo, also called Helios. We live in a heliocentric world. We live in an Apollonian world. The Bible calls Apollo also as Apollyon, the destroyer. He is the beast from the pit. He is what we call the Antichrist. He is the one that Satan handed over the paranormal to, and he's the one running the paranormal now. So a lot of churches say, oh, we need to use the biblical wisdom to calculate who the Antichrist is. Or some say, oh, the Antichrist is just a system of the Catholic Church. The Antichrist is an evil spirit. It's not a fallen angel, it's a Nephilim spirit. That's who the Antichrist is. And this Antichrist has a human system run by pagans to enforce his rule over mankind. So you have the Antichrist himself, who is Apollo, and you have the Antichrist system run from Rome, running things amongst fallen mankind. So churches that say, like the Seventh-day Adventist Church, say, oh, the Catholic Church, Rome is the Antichrist. No, that's not true. Others say no. There were Pentecostals say no. Bush is Antichrist. Obama's Antichrist. Oh, Trump's Antichrist. You keep going on and on. No, the Antichrist is a Nephilim. Okay, and there's a human private government of Satan that enables this satanic rule on the earth. Rule, as far as you can call it a rule. So it's clear to you now who Apollo is and why it's relevant, why it's important to know who he is. Is that clear onto you? Let me know in the live chat. Is that clear? Well, I can take this off now. There's not much wind. Is it clear onto you? Let me know. All right. So those churches, they keep telling you about the so-called rapture will never happen. They talk about the millennial reign of Christ. There's no millennial reign of Christ. The 1,000-year reign in the book of Revelations is symbolic, it's figurative. In ancient Greek, if something took a long time, you say, oh, it takes 1,000 years. It's not literally 1,000, it just means it takes a long time. So from the time Jesus was resurrected, say the day he comes back, that's the period we're in now, and that is the reign of the saints, the reign of believers. But at the end of this reign of believers, you're going to have a few generations of believers being so neglectful that they actually will give Satan a revival. And that's when Apollo will take the lead again. Eventually, even in the physical, in semi-human form. This is what the book of Revelation reveals. And right before it all collapses, everything goes to waste, Christ comes back. So there is no such thing as Christ coming back 1,000 years peace, Satan released again. It's not true. That's misreading the New Testament when you lack knowledge of ancient Greek. Okay? So there's no millennial reign. just to keep misinforming you about who the Antichrist is, about the so-called millennial reign just which doesn't exist, who don't inform you about the resurrection part of Christ, how to use in daily life, they are Judas. Remember, the real Judas, the apostle of Jesus, he was a believer. He was confirmed to be saved. But Judas was not delivered. Even Jesus was resurrected and he reinstated Judas. Judas still couldn't forgive himself and Judas killed himself. Okay? So Judas will be with him on the earth forever as he's a brother in Christ. But he was not delivered and he endangered everyone else. Well, the same way, in the end, in the last days, right before Christ comes back, in the last few generations before Christ comes back, it's not just one generation, just in the last few generations before Christ comes back, it's going to be neglectful believers enabling Satan to make a so-called comeback. That's what's going on. I already explained that. And that's why I'm telling you, believers, unlearn this Apollonian caste system. Unlearn it. You get no good out of it. Because that's how this caste system operates. You have a bunch of men at the so-called top of this pyramid. They know who Satan is. They know who Jesus is. They know all about that. They know all about the biblical history. They know about they know how males and females are built by the Heavenly Father. They know all about the sexual dynamic of human species. They know all of it. They have the top knowledge. And those men, however, are resentful towards the Heavenly Father. They don't want responsibility. They just want to escape. So they decide to be relevant in evil. They want to be relevant in this neglect of mankind. So what they are, the wizards. What the wizards do is they manage the fallen state of mankind so they can become relevant as gods. They want this godhood position over the rest of the human species. So instead of telling people about Christ and educate them so that we all are better off, they want to keep us away from the truth so that they can play God over us, or so-called managing us. Those are considered the alpha males. Then you have the majority of the male population who, either due to lack of knowledge or due to they're not willing to face anything, gets along being slapped around like this. Those are the beta males in general. And the thing is, the beta males end up enabling the wizards do what they're doing. And some of those so-called beta males eventually become warlocks and become in agreement with Satan also. So that's really how this caste system operates. And women are seen as a necessary evil. They need to be around to have sex with, to have babies. And when children grow up, yeah, they're around, but women are left out of the picture. Women are seen as a special problem, as a hindrance. So women have to be there, but women have to have their women's sphere for only women over there. And we men have the manosphere, where the alpha males dominate the other men. And if the other men don't get along, they are shown their place through sexual humiliation. That is this Apollonian caste system. Does that sound familiar to you? It should sound familiar because there are a lot of groups out there operating like this. As believers, we need to follow Christ and unlearn this Greek caste system. Because this Greek caste system, it goes against our natural design as human beings. According to this Apollonian caste system, the male sex drive is all you need as a community to function. So everything is centered around the male sex drive. But here's the problem. The male sex drive needs the feminine softness in order to remain stable. So if you take away the feminine softness by psychologically hurting the female population, that means that the sex or the life source of the men become toxic. And then you have the alpha males through sexual humiliation and violence, keeping the toxicity of the males in check. And because of that, they're seen as heroes. So you generate a problem that didn't exist, namely, you knock down the sex drives of the men in the community through financial stress. Yes, financial stress, whether caused by this thing called inflation, or caused by warfare, or caused by sudden traumatic events in the community. Yes, inflation is a tool too. By numbing down the life source, or say sex source of the men become like living corpses. Your sex drive is your life source as a man. When that is numbed down to trauma, listen, you don't function as a man anymore. You're like a walking corpse. You're like a zombie. Okay, and in that condition, you're toxic. In that condition, you're not healthy. So you have millions and millions of unhealthy men who are psychologically going after one another, and then you have the alpha males who cause the problem. Decide, hey, we're the ones going to deal with it. We have prisons, we have the police, we have this and that. We're going to deal with it. Just be sure and there's order, law and order. And a lot of females in the population, because they see those alpha males as stable and they're designed for male leadership, they confuse this tyranny as leadership and they get along with this thing called the patriarchy. Since the 1960s, you have this group called the feminists fighting the patriarchy. But it's the issue. They're fighting patriarchy, but they're not going back to biblical leadership. So they're still part of the same patriarchy. They're fighting the patriarchy, but by fighting it, they're keeping it relevant. All right? So it should be clear to you that no man in his right mind should want this caste system. Because in this caste system, women are delegated to either the bedroom or the kitchen, or they are loose pussy, so they're under Lolita spell as a public prostitute. So females don't fulfill their decorative role that God assigned them with. Now look at this. This ancient Greek caste system, it was not possible in ancient times. Going all the way back to the 20th century, it wasn't possible to actually enforce it to world all over the place. So in many places, the Greek caste system was there culturally, but locally, people were more in tune with the Bible. And that's why throughout human history, the women were quite productive, not only in having babies, but also in generating textile, fashion, music. They wrote a lot of songs. Women also contributed to the formation of languages. So women throughout history, when they operated more in harmony with God's society, were quite productive to the communities and to later generations. Since the 1960s, the Apollonians came with this program to psychologically mutilate the females in the West. And that's why you have the condition now where women are considered productive when they work at 9 to 5 and exhausted all the time, making money that they can't spend because they work all the time. But the actual natural creativity and abundance that women used to produce is not there. But a lot of women today are brainwashed, especially in the West, thinking, oh, with women's empowerment, or because we can act like men. No, you're being trained like those other men. And because of that, you think you're equal now to them. Yes, you're equally trained. That's what goes on. All right? If men ought to be men, why can't you be the female according to God, how God designed you? But anyway, understand this. It's only recent, since the 20th century, through the use of visual technology and also now through the internet and now also through instant communication, that this caste system become more powerful than ever. This caste system went all the way back to ancient Greece, but it was quite hard back then to keep it going. Now it's quite easy to keep it going, and you know what the worst thing is? A lot of people, especially younger people, they hold on to it. They're clinging, they're holding fast onto it. Now, in the past, our ancestors held onto it, but they shouldn't have done that. But they did. Oh, and here's another thing. Racism, so anti-black racism, so looking down at African people, that racism is a method to make the Greek caste system believable. How can you have people worshiping Greek gods, but the people that look like the Greek gods are not dominant, have everything under control? So you have to eventually shut down the Africans and everyone that looks like an African, make sure they're oppressed systematically, and then you have the white alphas from Europe regulating things through colonial empires, and eventually now in this in international relations. So, well, whether it was the transatlantic slave trade or anti-black racism in general, it was a method in the hope to make this caste system believable. And it worked. Oh, and here's the funny part. The Dutch pagans in The Hague in the 17th century who established this anti-black racism worldwide. because it's anti-black racism worldwide. It's a Dutch creation. Nigger comes from necker. Necker is a swamp monster. All right? And those swamp monsters are Ogun spirits. Yes, Dutch pagans worldwide, they used to worship black fallen angels. Look, fallen angelic beings, you have them in various sizes, shapes, tones. You have European-looking angelic beings. You have Indian-looking angelic beings. You have black African-looking angelic beings. Chinese. You have various types of angelic beings. How they look like? Well, you have a portion of the angelic beings that are black, and from the black angelic beings, a small portion is fallen. It's cast out of heaven with Satan. So the black fallen angels are called Ogun spirits. So the Dutch pagans used to worship Ogun spirits, black demons. They call them neckers. So here's the issue: they worship black demons, but then they go out and oppress oppress black human beings. That's the stupidity of it. So that's why if you were a black pagan, they tend to honor you. Why? Because you look like some of the demons they worship. Yes, racists, white supremacists, they worship black demons. Because those black demons, those black fallen angels, are all about struggle. The Ogun spirits, they want all Africans to be in struggle all the time. So that's why those Ogun spirits work together with the white supremacists. Yes, there are black demons behind the white supremacists. Now you know. All right? So the neckers are the Ogun spirits, the black fallen angels. And then they now begin to call black people neckers. Okay? They became niggers. Okay? So now you understand where it comes from. Anti-black racism makes the Apollonian caste system appear believable. That's why they have a hard time letting go of racism. Because take away racism right now out of the world. And what's left of this Apollonian caste system? It looks like a big joke, like a big embarrassment. And that's why they don't want to give it up. Oh, and especially in the Netherlands. Yes, the Dutch government apologized for slavery on the 9th of December 2022. That's quite recent. It's even less than a month ago. But look, let me tell you, a lot of people in this country, they are holding fast onto racism because it makes their caste system realistic, and the caste system is what they hold on to. They do. Yes, they're holding fast. So I don't focus on racism. I don't focus on white supremacy. I focus on the root. This is Apollonian caste system that worldwide people are believing in. The Indian caste system, let me tell you about India. The caste system of India was also introduced by the Greeks, because the Greeks did not, let me say, Alexander did not conquer India. He didn't do that. But instead, the Greeks had an economic dominance over India. So the Greek Empire did not conquer India back then. The Indian subcontinent. It didn't do that. Instead, you had rich Greek folks moving to India and establishing small, tiny colonies over there, small Greek communities, and they became economically dominant in India. So the Indian people back then adopt a lot of the Greek bullshit. I call it bullshit. They adopted it. And later, they introduced this in their own Indian societies. But here's the issue. The Indians were smart enough for centuries to realize this is a Greek bullshit. It is. But look at this. When the British came in the 19th century and made plain were taking over, they reintroduced this Greek caste system. But of course, the Indians had their own version of the Greek caste system, with Brahman, Vishnu, or whatever those Indian Hindu gods are. So the Hindu people, or say the people from South Asia in general, they saw the caste system as something playful, something historic. There were some who were hard on it, of course, but in general, people were saying, okay, it exists, but so what? Under the British rule in India, the caste system was solidified. And when the British abandoned India in 1947, the caste system remained as strong as it is today. Did this answer your question, Wolborg? Now I understand why the caste in India is so dominant. When people think about caste, think about India and think about oppression of females and all that. Listen, The whole world runs on a caste system. The one from ancient Greece, centered around Apollo. You get me? And let me tell you, this world doesn't want to let go. So we as believers need to become better and let go of this crap. Listen, we need to forfeit the sexual, let me say, we need to forfeit the sex crimes of ancient Egypt. We need to unlearn them. And we need to let go of this ancient Greek caste system. Please let it go. And it's not easy because your whole life you were shaped and molded to worship Apollo. Yes, it is. Your whole life you've been shaped and molded, both as a man, as a woman, especially as a man, to look up to Apollo. You were shaped to look up to another man as a validation of your sexuality as a man. It's a sodomite thing. I'm telling you. As I told you before, the obelisk refers to the penis of Nimrod. Nimrod, when Abraham passed away, Nimrod, because Nimrod didn't dare to confront Abraham, because Abraham became dominant worldwide and numbs down the influence of Nimrod. When Abraham died, Nimrod didn't go after Isaac; he went after Esau, the firstborn of Isaac. And guess what? Esau was hunting outside, and Nimrod, together with two guards, came to kidnap him. Because sexual, again, the loose booty thing was something amongst the Hamites, and Nimrod was a Hamite, just like the ancient Egyptians were. So Nimrod tried to do the loose booty on this 15-year-old boy. Okay, but guess what? Esau killed Nimrod and chopped his body to pieces. Now, Esau ran away. The Babylonian government went and brought back the corpse of Nimrod and put it back together, but they couldn't find the penis. They buried Nimrod, which is called Osiris in ancient. Okay, can you hear me now? It fell off a little bit. Can you all hear me? Let me know. Can you all hear me? I don't know what happened to the internet over here, but anyway. Can you all hear me? Please let me know. Okay, good. So understand this. When they buried Nimrod, they put a national and they put in a national day of mourning each year to mourn about Nimrod's missing penis. And they built this penis symbol called the obelisk. They built it in ancient Egypt and other places also to remember the missing penis of our beloved emperor Nimrod. And this pointy dildo-like structure is what they've incorporated in church buildings. That's why many church buildings have this big tower on top of them. That tower at the church is reference to Nimrod's penis. And guess what? That has to do with Nimrod. When Alexander of Macedonia, far later human history, conquered Babylon, he wanted to make Babylon the capital of the Greek Empire at some point. He took this Babylonian custom of the obelisk and worshipping Nimrod's penis and put it worldwide too. So that's why you have the obelisk worldwide and those pointy buildings like that. So the ancient Greeks will worship Apollo, which is derived from Alexander of Macedonia, because he's the one that's Apollo. They also honor Nimrod indirectly. The focus on Apollo, but also honor Nimrod. So the male sex drive alone That's what they believe in. All the male sex drive. Keep the feminine softness out. Feminine softness is weak. That's horrible. If as a man, if you're not fierce enough, we're on you. That's how it goes. Unfortunately, a lot of women follow this crap also. So understand, it is a process of unlearning this caste system. Many of the teachings in churches are based on this caste system also. Look, we need to learn the biblical dynamic of sexuality. The man is fierce, a reflection of God himself, and he has strength and is fierce in the earth, and he donates his strength to the woman, and feminine softness not stabilize, feminine softness makes the fierce of the man sustainable. Understand this: feminine softness makes men sustainable. Men all by themselves are not sustainable. It's not just about sexual intercourse. In general, feminine softness stabilizes the male fierceness. So that's why we need to both value the male fierceness, which is a sex drive, and we also need to value feminine softness. We have to do both. You can't say, no, only feminine softness, because that's not even possible to do that. Because the feminine softness craves the man anyway. But what you also cannot do is say no feminine softness. That's just too much responsibility. All the male sex drive. That's sodomy, and eventually you'll have men turning on each other sexually, and no, that's a whole mess. All right. So where do we begin? We recognize that Jesus is Lord. He's our sex owner. Means we're not lords. So no man should act as Lord towards anyone. Then we admit he is Lord, so he decides the sex drive of human males. Some men, before they're born, have a common spark in their soul, so they have a common sex drive. Other men have a high sex drive based on how God put a spark inside of them. He is Lord, he decides. We get along with that. And then realize, okay, our male sex drive are there to benefit our community, especially the females. Not just sexual intercourse, also looking after the females, emotionally, on a psychological level, all of that. So we need to begin to see women as our pretty sisters, and women should see us as our brothers, whether older brothers or younger brothers. Because we are one species as human beings anyway. But hey, fallen mankind, they throw away God's model of sexuality, they put it in the trash bin, and they go on to Satan and what Satan has to offer. This is what fallen mankind does. That's why we have the shit we have today in the world. All right? Respect is not biblical. Honor is. Patriarchy is not biblical. Male leadership is. So don't fight the patriarchy. By fighting, you keep it relevant. Make the patriarchy irrelevant by having male leadership according to God's commandments. If you don't, God's laws, statutes, and commandments are guidelines. They're not restrictions. Okay? Now, human beings, we need restrictions. If you're a little child, you need restrictions by your parents and the community for you to operate, because you can't think for yourself. As an adult, there's minor restrictions you need. For example, traffic rules, or maybe the arrangements on alcohol. You go to a pub to drink some beers, they say enough. So as a human being, restrictions can be practical and beneficial, but we should not base our whole existence as human beings on restrictions. And that's what fallen mankind does. They cling onto restrictions. You know what I mean? The Heavenly Father doesn't give us restrictions, He gives us guidelines to secure life and abundance. Okay? So if the Heavenly Father gives us guidelines, we should embrace those guidelines and put them in practice. But what a lot of people do on the earth, they throw away God's guidelines into the trash, and then they look for restrictions to hold on to. They feel powerful holding on to. And then they take it out on other people through scapegoating. That's what fallen man can do. They love to hold on to restrictions. They call them principles, boundaries, ethics, morals. All restrictions you cling on to. Throw it all away. Embrace the guidelines of the Heavenly Father. That's what we should be doing. Listen, the world system is an ancient Greek sodomite pedophilic caste system in which reprobate men sexually turn on and escalate on weaker men, And we're taught that this is life, this reality, this civilization, this advancement. Get the fuck out of here. I don't take that shit. Hell no, I don't take that. So are you going to follow this Greek caste system with all its sexual violence comes with it? Because think about it. This Greek caste system, it makes you tired as a man on a daily basis. Remember, financial stress is a tool to numb down your sex drive as a man. Once your life source is numbed down, you're finished as a man. And if it's done to you while growing up, you can't bond well sexually with women. You have a hard time feeling empathy towards women. You also have a hard time having empathy towards your fellow men. You'll have all types of psychological disorders you need to process. You'll have to also have a lot of wrong expectation of life also. So let me tell you, this caste system, it disables you psychologically from a young age. And it happens with most men. That's why so many men are so dysfunctional, especially when it comes to related with female. Now, are there men who grew up with this caste system of society and still end up relatively well? They end up relatively well. They're not well off, but they're relatively well compared to the other men. I mean, if you were beaten 10 times, and the other guy was beaten 2 times, the one that's beaten 10 times is worse of the one that's beaten 2 times. But the one that's beaten 2 times is also in a bad condition, but it's in less bad condition than one beaten 10 times. And we tend to think, oh, this guy doesn't bother anyone. This guy is at ease. Yes, he's at ease, but that doesn't mean he has peace. Okay? Nobody wins with this caste system. That's why every 7 or 8 years, there tends to be this financial crash or this financial disturbance in the community. This done on purpose. Because look, in ancient Greece, they used to do the loose booty and even homicide from time to time on the young men that didn't get along. This sexual trauma of seeing your peers, your male peers, being violated sexually by older men, it does something to you. But now today, the Apollonians can't afford to just go out there and just bounce into little boys and teenagers and all that. They can't do that. So what they do, especially today, is financial stress, whether it's through inflation or through some bad corporate policies or bad political decisions. Those things are done on purpose to cause financial stress on the man, because financial stress numbs down your sex drive. And by that happening, you're finished as a man, you become less effective, you have less empathy, you become a disaster of a human being. Simple as that. When that happens, people around you will miss out too, and the women in the community miss out because the men offer lower quality. But guess what? Once this happens, naturally the sex drive tends to recover. So if they do this major crash financially in 2007 or 2008, well, around 2015, 16, there must be another thing that happens that brings financial stress to the men, in this case, a refugee crisis. That's how it goes. That's how it goes on and on. No, I'm not saying that all the events that happen in the world are all result some giant cabal conspiracy. I'm not saying that. What I do say is that you do have a cabal. Look the word cabal up in the dictionary. A cabal is a bunch of people come together to get something done in a secretive way, and often things they want to get done is something others don't want. You have this cabal of Apollonians who do as far as they can manipulate things behind the scenes in our disadvantage. But the rest of human species gets along because the rest of human species is also not in a good state. The human species, apart from Christ, is in a narcissistic, fearful state, and they don't wish each other well at all. So that's the clique between the Apollonian wizards and the rest of the population. All right? Yes, this shows up in the spirit of rejection of self as well as others, indeed. So understand this. The whole financial stress thing that goes on in society, whether it's at work or whether it's in a corporate world, or whether it's just because it's a war, like what happens now in Ukraine and Russia, all of that, it's all designed to numb down your sex drive and to disable you sexually. That's what it's about. They can't disable you sexually by literally violating you and raping you physically, or by castrating you physically, whatever, but they do this on a psychological level. So all the men watching me over here, Never have financial stress in your life. I don't care if you lack money to pay rent, or I don't care if you're about to lose your job or they're trying to fire you. Never have financial stress. You hear me? Once you have financial stress, you're finished. And it takes a little while to recover also. Avoid financial stress as much as possible. Sometimes it comes on you, the life circumstance. Even then, don't embrace it and don't fight it. Shake it off in agreement with Christ and look at the situation in a healthy way. Also, get other people and do something about the situation is what you do. The purpose of this thing called Viagra is to boost the penis to get hard, because this dysfunction happens in quite some men, also due to financial stress. The financial stress causes other issues in their body, and those other issues cause the erectile dysfunction. Okay, but people look at the other issues in the body and use Viagra either just because they want to have sex more, or use Viagra or other means just to boost the dick getting hard. But I don't deal with what's causing it. It's mainly financial stress and the belief in this cost system, because it's the belief in this cost system that enables financial stress on you to begin with. All right? Listen, prosperity is sexual first, then financial. I said it. Prosperity is sexual first, then financial. Never financial first, then sexual. Your thoughts: work hard, get your money, have a stable income, then you can have a woman staying with you. Then find a woman will be easy. No, it's first sexual, then financial. Let's look even for the women. Let's look at Ruth in the Bible. Ruth was a refugee, and a widow. She remained feminine in her behavior. She remained sexually healthy, and she was also, as I explained, pinging, giving up shocks because she has sexual longings. And guess what? This man that was wealthy picked it up, and this man was pushed to pay attention to her, and she ended up having a husband being financially well off. So it's sexual first, then financial. Okay? A man that wants to contribute to his community because he wants to see the women in his community well off, that's being sexually driven. That's good. Such motivation will keep you going. It will. Yeah. You get me? But this whole idea, oh, you need to work because if you can't pay rent, something bad happens. Whoa, financial stress, that kills you. A man should be sexually driven in all he does. Sexually driven does not mean you want to have sex with everyone. Didn't say that. Sexually driven simply means that your sex drive, your life source, is active in driving you, in pushing you to do things. Whether it's looking after your family, whether it's guarding your community against harm, or whether it's when you're into animal welfare, looking after animals because you want the community to be in harmony with animals too. Whatever that is, yo man. Whatever that is, you should be sexually driven as a man at all times. Because your sex drive is your life source as a male. Anyone that tells you otherwise, they are lying to you and they're sent by Satan. Simple as that. Okay. I'll consider making a live stream about that, fierce patient. I'll consider that. Prosperity is sexual first, financial later. If you're not sexually healthy, then material abundance is going to be difficult for you to deal with. So, understand this. This world system tells you finances first, then sex. It's sexual first, then finances. Simple as that. If you are sexually unhealthy because you're not in line with the blueprint and you're not willing to face this or willing to become better, that means you are willingly dysfunctional. It means you are accursed. And the Bible says in the book of Jeremiah, I believe chapter 17, because accursed men, they look up to other men as validation of their manhood. And the Bible says, cursed is the man that relies on men, whose heart departs from the Lord. He'll be like a dry bush in a desert who doesn't know if something good comes. And what does the Bible say? He who finds a wife found something good and receive favor from the Lord. So The blessing is sexual first, financial later. Also, because finance is a part of the material. A finance is a part of material abundance. It's sexual first, financial later. So if you are accursed as a man, you will notice, you will not notice when good opportunities come in your life. You won't. Because it's all going to be sexual first, financial later. You won't be able to decipher when good opportunities come. And you're like a dry bush in a desert. But if you are in agreement with Christ, realizing that the Lord decides your manhood, you are blessed. And anytime there are bad things coming off, you won't even notice it. So if you are a blessed man, there will be fucked up, stupid women coming around. Some even try to exploit you. But often you won't even notice them, know how bad they are, because you keep on going. You have virility. But if you are a man, you look up to other men for your manhood, you are cursed. You're out of your damn mind. When a good feminine woman comes by, you won't even notice how valuable she is. You'll trash her. You'll either dismiss her or trash her. Because you are accursed. You're not willing to face yourself that you are out of your mind and you're not sexually healthy because you're not according to God's blueprint. Simple as that. Same for ladies. Ladies, if you're not feminine according to God's design, and you're not willing to become according to God's design, you're not willing to face your dysfunction, you are an accursed woman. And I would warn any man from getting involved with you sexually. Because you're like a dry desert and a cold graveyard. This is what you are. Simple as that. As simple as that. You are like a dry desert and a cold graveyard. I'll tell any man to stay away from you. You're bad news. Seriously. But if you're a woman, let's say you are dysfunctional and you're willing to be better, that alone makes you have a beneficial effect on people around you. Even if you're not fully recovered yet, the willing you want to be better as a woman and be feminine, that already makes you beneficial to people around you, to your community, as well to the man you'll be sleeping with. But if you're a woman, you're not willing to even face the fact you're not operating God's design, I'm sorry, but sorry, you're bad news. A dry desert and a cold graveyard is what you are. And no man should be with you because you're a blessing blocker. Any man that gets involved with you sexually, you block his life and you hinder good things from happening and you bring trouble to him. Simple as that. So repent and become better, please. Thank you. Stop talking about society. We don't do society, we do community. Thank you very much. Okay? I'm not attacking you, Christian. I just want to point out to you, don't be into society, we're into community over here. Society is this escape mechanism of the world. Community is what we should have as human beings together. What I get what I'm saying, Christian, what you're saying, I understand it. Listen, whether your sex drive is high or low, that's not onto you. God decides your sex drive. He did. If you have a common drive as a man, accept it. Don't try to act like you have a higher drive than you really have. No, accept the low drive you have. Okay? If you have a high sex drive as a man, there comes more responsibility with it. Just embrace it. Simple as that. Okay, let me see. All right. I'm going to give you the opportunity to ask questions now. Ask questions. Ask questions, please. I know you have questions because it's a sensitive topic. I can't answer all questions, but I'm going to take up. But if you ask some good questions, I'm going to spend some time answering them. I have some data on my phone anyway, so I have time to answer you. All right. Mm-hmm. How do I know if I'm sexually dysfunctional? Let's look at God's blueprint. Eve was soft. Eve was at peace, stable, and Eve was willing to comply sexually with Adam and also to decorate the earth, to be active in the earth together with her husband. Are you, as a woman, willing to comply with your community? And are you willing to decorate and beautify your community? And when it comes to sexuality, are you willing to be led by your men? and to contribute to him. Being led by your man does not mean, oh, he's the boss. He says, I obey. That's slavery. I'm not talking about that. Are you willing to are you willing to assist and soften your man and to make your man sustainable in the earth? If that's you, you're sexually healthy as a woman. If you're not into this description, you need help. All right, you really need help. All right. So that was one question. Are there any more? Let me know. Okay. Oh, as a man. Okay. As a man, how are you sexually this? If you're sexual health as a man, according to God's design, oh my God. Oh my bad. There was another individual called Fierce. Oh, Fear that was a female, so I misunderstood you for that other believer. My bad. You're a male. So as a man, this is what sexual health is according to God's design. You admit your vulnerability, you admit your fragility of your body, but you embrace your natural weaknesses. But nevertheless, you embrace the challenge of life and you're willing to contribute to your community with effort, with creativity, and with giving lead. You're willing to look after the females of your community as a brother figure. And when it comes to actual sexual intercourse, you're willing to lead. Uh, you're willing to lead your wife, and you're willing to let your wife to impute into you too. And not just you telling your wife this is what we're going to do. No, you're willing to let your wife impute into you too. So you have to be humble to let your wife impute into you too. It's not just say, "Oh, I'm the head of the household. I decide. I don't hear anything." No, no. You're flexible to also receive from the woman and receive her feedback too. If that's you, you're fine. If that's not you, I'm sorry, you need help. All right. I'm not. I don't know about CBT therapy. I mean, I have to look into it. I'll come back to it in maybe a later live stream. Okay. Someone asked. Most men don't want that though. They are attracted to masculine, money chaser attitude women. No women is masculine. Don't even say that. They're toxic. Don't call that toxicity masculine. But anyway, what I understand, where you're from, the United States, it can be that a lot of men over there, they're onto this Jezebel type of women. Because these men have accepted the role as beta males. And they think, oh, but these women are dominant. Let me just get along with them. Those men are accursed because they embraced dysfunction. They normalize dysfunction. So those men, as a woman, please avoid, please. Okay? And as a man, don't have friendships with men like that. Don't, really. If a male believer is like that, he needs to be disciplined by other believers, and it needs to be avoided if he doesn't change as it doesn't renew his mind as a believer. Absolutely. Why do you even answer the question, Christian? If you ask a question like that, I want to know why. Okay. As a matter of fact, I may answer the question personally through email, but um, not over here. Mhm. What are some things one can do to improve change? I already said it. You need to embrace God's model. You need to embrace the fact you're a vulnerable creature, and as a vulnerable creature, you need to get along with your other fellow vulnerable creatures, other human beings, in a harmonious way, led by the Heavenly Father. That's what you need to embrace. Hmm. Okay. So understand this. This Apollonian caste system, it only stands because there are neglectful believers enabling it and believing in it. If all believers would be of one accord and cremate Christ, this Apollonian caste system would collapse. It would be gone. But we have a lot of Judasons in the body of Christ. That's why this thing continues. If you're a Judas, please stay away from my channel because I don't need that negativity over here. I know you're a believer, you're a brother, sister in Christ. I love you, but please, that stupidity not over here, please. Thank you. All right. Are there any questions? Well, the last round of questions. Last round. Are there any questions? If I get none within 2 minutes, I'll close down the live stream. Oh, it's okay. Before I even close the live stream, listen. Be forgiving and patient with other people, and stop expecting people to be always at ease for you. People being at ease for you all the time, that's not necessarily a good thing. We all need to unlearn this Greek idolatry that was forced inside of us. Whether you're from China, or you're from Brazil, or from Nigeria, or from Norway, wherever you're from, this Greek idolatry has been put in all of us. We all need to unlearn it. There's nothing wrong with Greek language or Greek foods or Greek customs in itself, but Greek idolatry, we need to get rid of that. I'm sorry about Wolber. I already said women have no sex drive. They have urges. I already said that. So there's no such thing as a woman with a sex drive. Women have urges, not drives. Drives are masculine. Women have urges, and some women, let me say, some women have intense urges, so they need extra care. We have those around. But after we demonize such women, instead of realize, okay, she just has a lot of intense urges, so let's find the men to deal with that. Let's us as men find a way to deal with it properly. But okay, the body of Christ doesn't want to do that. He'd rather call her a Jezebel or whatever and just kick her out. Now, don't worry, Wilbrook. I'm not blaming you over here. The unrest in Europe is because this caste system that Europeans think is their heritage is not working, but keep holding on to it. Is the end near? Look, I don't know when Christ will come back, and I don't even care when he comes back. I just want us to be active till he comes back. And just know, neglectful believers will make it hard on us till he comes back. So be forgiving, especially with fellow believers. I'm telling you. Uh, the Lost War. I already made a live stream about the Great Tribulation. I made a live stream about the Great Tribulation a while ago. Please go back on my YouTube timeline with lives and check it out. I made a live stream about the Great Tribulation. Please watch it. Fierce patience. Okay. Can Dion? She can. She can. Just because the physical cycle doesn't happen doesn't mean she does have a psychic cycle. She does. Okay. So she can do that. All right. Okay. Let's see if I miss any question. Okay. No more questions. All right. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to make some phone calls with fellow believers now. Keep agreeing with Christ, be at peace, and don't stop worshiping Apollo. Please be at peace. God is good.